Considine, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Chairman, Ranking Member Issa, and members of the committee, my name is Jill Considine, and I want to thank you for this opportunity to testify and share information pertaining to the responsibilities as a trustee of the AIG Credit Facility Trust. I'd like to begin by describing a little bit my experience in both government and in the financial services industry. I served as a banker, a banking regulator, and as the Chief Executive Officer of systemically important financial institutions. Each of these experiences proven invaluable as I participate with the other trustees to execute our responsibilities and maximize the government's investment in AIG and, most importantly, protect the interests of the American taxpayer. I previously served as CEO of the First Women's Bank, was the New York State Banking Superintendent, and served as President of the New York Clearinghouse Association. In addition, I was the Chairman of the CEO of the Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, and, as was mentioned, was a member of the Board of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. I agreed to serve as a trustee, understanding the importance and urgency of the mission we were being asked to undertake, and with a sense of duty to the taxpayers, whose interest as shareholders in AIG we were asked to represent. Now, with respect to the particular role we had been assigned, we know that we're in uncharted waters. There's no history, no precedent to which we can look for guidance. Our anchor is the trust agreement itself, which describes our roles, our responsibilities, and also our limitations. The primary responsibility on the trust agreement are to vote the stock that we hold at all meetings of the stockholders and, most importantly, in connection with the election of directors of AIG, to develop and execute a plan to sell or otherwise dispose of the trust stock in a value-maximizing manner, and, of course, to work with senior management and the Board of Directors of AIG to ensure that corporate governance procedures are satisfactory to us. However, equally important, the trust agreement says what we should not do, and we cannot directly or indirectly become directors of AIG or be responsible for managing the day-to-day operations of AIG or any of its subsidiaries. Explicitly, by the terms of the trust, we must leave the day-to-day direction and management of AIG to the senior officers of the company and its board of directors. Now, there's been a lot of conversation today and in the past about the congressional and public concern over bonuses paid. And we share these concerns about the payments of large bonuses at the time when AIG was failing and being rescued by the taxpayers. However, we are committed to ensuring that issues of compensation at AIG going forward are addressed in a thoughtful, prudent, and fair manner. It is essential that the Board of Directors focus on compensation because a fair and an effective compensation system is truly necessary to ensure the successful restructuring of AIG and the recovery of the taxpayers' investment. In our view, compensation should be designed to be performance-based, to reward long-term sustainable value creation, and align employees' compensation with those of the shareholder over the long term. It should not be structured to encourage and reward undue risk-taking or short-term results. To these ends, we've asked Mr. Liddy, together with senior management at AIG, the board, and the appropriate committees, to undertake a broad review of the compensation programs currently in place throughout AIG and to develop a comprehensive compensation program that applies to AIG as a whole. I'm honored to serve with my colleagues, Mr. Feldberg and Mr. Fauché, in this important role. Mr. Fauché will now describe other aspects of our work, particularly with respect to the Board of Directors.
Mr. Fauché, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Ranking Member Issa and members of the committee, I'm Doug Fauché. I'll begin my testimony by providing you with some brief information on my background and experience. I've spent 27 years in business. I was a banker in Texas for almost a decade, have been employed by 2 global companies, and have served in leadership roles in so-called turnaround situations. I serve on the boards of 2 Fortune 500 companies and, as mentioned, serve as chair of the Houston branch of the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank. Perhaps my most relevant experience as it relates to AIG, though, is my current full-time job as Chairman and CEO of El Paso Corporation. I came to El Paso in the wake of a tumultuous time for the company, stock prices falling precipitously, employees indicted and convicted, credit downgrades leading to cash collateral calls in a trading company that included over 40,000 trades, inadequate risk management systems, more than one restated financial statement, rumored bankruptcy, a highly publicized proxy fight that forced a replacement of management and a substantial change in the board, innumerable government investigations, and tragically, the loss of morale of its longtime committed employees, most of whom had nothing to do with the decisions that led to the near demise of this great 80-year-old company. I joined El Paso in 2003 to try, along with a very committed and talented group of employees, to turn all this around. Since then, the team has divested over $17.5 billion in assets, reduced debt by half, returned our pipeline's investment-grade rating, and the company has been recognized by Fortune magazine as one of its most admired companies in 2008. The statistic we're most proud of, though, is that our 2008 biennial employee survey, 91% of our employees said they're proud to work for our company, as relates to 40% in 2004. I'm serving as a trustee simply because I believe that to whom much is given, much is expected. I feel a deep sense of obligation to the U.S. taxpayers to act as a good steward of the investment that has been made in AIG, and I'm honored to serve in this capacity with my two co-trustees. One of our most important responsibilities as trustees is to ensure that AIG has an effective, independent, and capable board, and that this board is focused on recruiting and maintaining a strong and effective management team dedicated to prosecuting the company's long-term plan. This allocation of responsibility between us on the one hand and the board and management on the other, in addition to being set forth explicitly in the trust agreement, replicates what is the accepted standard for good corporate governance for public companies in America. For these reasons, we've spent considerable effort focused on AIG's board of directors, how it functions, what skills the board members have, and how those skills fit with the needs of a company in AIG's extraordinary circumstances. We've come to the conclusion that if AIG is to succeed, it needs a fresh start, a reset, if you will, a reset in the eyes of Congress, the American public, and other important constituencies. We've recommended 5 new, highly competent, highly capable, independent director candidates to the board. We expect that the board will approve those candidates soon, that their names will appear in the proxy statement that the company will be issuing within a week, and that they will be elected at the upcoming shareholders meeting. These 5 additions, plus Mr. Dammerman, Ms. Nora Johnson, and Mr. Liddy, and another new director proposed by the company, will give the company effectively 9 new board members. We believe that this action is wholly consistent with our overriding objective as trustees to maximize the long-term value of the equity held by the AIG Trust, and we look forward to supporting the newly constituted board as it carries out its tasks. In closing, let me say that, that as trustees, we recognize there are many, many constituencies that have a perspective on, and in many cases a stake in, the outcome of AIG. Most of them wish it to succeed. Some do not. In the end, though, our focus is on maximizing the long-term value of the equity that the AIG Trust holds. It is through this lens that we see 2 constituencies to be of significant and underappreciated importance: the customers of AIG and the employees of AIG. If we all as taxpayers wish to recover our investment in AIG, then everything begins with them. They watch TV and they read the newspapers. Every day, AIG's employees have a choice about where to work, and every day AIG's customers have a choice about where they buy their insurance and other financial products. If they don't choose AIG, then it is a mathematical certainty that the value of this asset that we now all own collectively a piece of will go down. We need to keep these constituencies in mind when the rest of us, the trustees, and, respectfully, the Treasury Department, the New York Fed, and the Congress decide how best to proceed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and Mr.